welcome just to Metallarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Pupil Slicer, this new album Blossom, and what is related to the metal world, well, in general, extreme metal world. So, first of all, how has it been during the last 2 years? Because your last album was released 2 years ago, Mirrors. Now we present a new album, Blossom. Meanwhile, you did a lot of singles during these 2 years, a lot of things, and I saw a few things that you did tours in UK and other parts of the world. So how has been the band?
Yeah, it's been a really crazy 2 years. It hasn't felt like we really let up on the brakes at all. It's been, lots of touring, lots of bucket list gigs and exciting things. But yeah, and recording an album, releasing an album which is coming out in a few days. And yeah, it's just been pretty non-stop, pretty exciting. Almost too much happening to process it all, but it's been great.
Okay. Oh, when you release Mirrors, well, had a huge impact in the media, because a lot of reviewers, interviewers, a lot of people recommended that album. Now for you, well, 2 years later, we have this Blossom stuff. And for you, first, what are the biggest differences that exists already compared to the previous album?
I think the new album's a lot cleaner, a lot more concise with its sound. I think we're exploring some of the sprinkles of different ideas that we had on Mirrors a lot more. So we're sort of trying to explore the genres that we sort of only really tapped in on Mirrors a little bit. And I think, yeah, hopefully people see it as a natural progression in the right direction rather than a step backwards. We still always go out to make a record that we're happy with and we'd want to listen to, but we hope that people listening to it won't miss the stuff on Mirrors too much, and sort of behind us on the experimental stuff we tried on this album too.
Okay. Well, I remember when I spoke with Luke and Katie for the first album, and Luke told me that the first album was composed and written almost entirely by you and Katie at that time, because Luke integrated the band later when the album was done. But now, now I denote from this Blossom aspect that this new album is like a gathering influence for all bands, but all members bands, because I heard your drums parts are more ambitious in some ways. Luke intervening in a lot of things and created this new album. So now, how was the composition process of this new album? Is related, well, in the same vein, like Katie and you did all the parts, or perhaps now all bands influence with all kind of methods, playing bass, guitar, drums.
I think the writing from the album, I felt like I contributed a little bit more to this one in the terms of some of the structural stuff. But I'd say Katie did the majority of the legwork for it, again, with the lyrics and the concept. There's a lot more sprinkles from Luke on this one as well. He's wrote a lot more of his bass lines, which I think is quite obvious, because some of the bass lines in the first album probably didn't come across like they were to stand out and sit in the pocket as much, whereas I think in this one they do. Yeah, and from a drum perspective, me and Kate had a lot more back and forth with this one, where we'd bounce ideas off of each other more, rather than I just write a drum part and then that's it, final, or Kate would write a drum part and then that would be it, and I'd just learn it. We kind of had a bit of a healthier relationship where we worked together to find the best part. And yeah, hopefully that comes across, that there's a lot more care and consideration in the album in general, and because we're just trying to elevate everything to the best it can be for this one.
Okay. Talking about from Frank Muir, what was Frank's work on this new
album? So Frank basically came into the fold just to thicken up the live sound originally. He was basically a live member just to help us with the extra guitar parts and make the sound a lot fuller live, and help bring the mirrors sound to life more. But he did help us with some of a little bit of the songwriting on this one. Like he contributed a few riffs and he and some of the solos and stuff on this album. So yeah, he had some involvement in that as well, which was great because I don't think Kate is necessarily like a soloer, or even though Kate's written some great solos and stuff on her album, I think Frank's a bit more of a shredder, so he's got some moments on this album as well. And yeah, he's briefly on maternity leave from Pupil Slice at the moment, so we've got another live guitarist called Alex playing gigs with us now. But yeah, he's just had a baby, so he's not contributing at the moment, but he did contribute a bit to the Blossom album itself, which is why he's credited on the album.
Okay. Well, as I said in the first question, mirrors have had a huge impact in the world, with a lot of good reviews, interviews, a lot of recommendations for best of the world. So with this Blossom, do you feel some kind of pressure to do in the same vein, or perhaps the same impact that you did in the first album?
Yeah, I think we knew this would always be different this time round, because the first one there was no expectation, and we were just this band that everyone was like, oh, this is a cool new band and exciting, and there was nothing to compare it to. But with this one, we felt a little bit nervous. But I mean, we've literally been getting feedback and reviews over the last few days, and so far it's all been positive, which is a big relief. And also yeah, really nice to hear, because we have worked really hard on the album. But yeah, I think it's a good progression, and the pressure feels a little bit alleviated, but there's still probably a lot more reviews. And then we've obviously got, the public and the fan opinion as well, which probably is the most important at all. Not saying reviewers aren't important, but fans are what makes this band, us, able to do the things we're doing. They help us by funding the gigs we do, and get us out on the road and help us record recordings. So hopefully the sort of initial reviewers, what they've been saying chimes with the fans as well, and they really like it.
Okay. Well, we are relative Pupil Slicer is a new band, because since your first album 2001, since your first EP or single in 2000 May 2017, now you grow up very fast in the media with a lot of things. Now both albums were released by Prosthetic Records, and now with this new impact that the band has for tours and more, perhaps did you receive some different options to release different kind of that, perhaps other tapes, etc., by other labels in the world, proposals?
Being honest, I don't think we got approached by any different labels for this release. But I don't know, we're quite happy with Prosthetic at the moment, and it seems to be going well. We've worked with other people to release different formats of this album. I think there's been a tape release on a different label, like an underground one, which is quite cool. But yeah, no news on that at the moment, but you never know what the future holds. But we're pretty happy with Prosthetic at the moment, and I think we're planning to do another album with them. So yeah, that's all I can really say on that.
Okay. Well, when I listened completely this Blossom, I did not one aspect that Kate told me, that the band is had a lot of influence from pop area, a lot of pop area, rock area. That's why this new album has like a pop stuff, Kate singing and Kling singing. That's different from the first album, this kind of stuff. But a curious thing, according to this, is usually the mathcore bands in the world, like Code Orange, Dillinger Escape Plan, a lot of bands more, are related with this pop area, are trying to sing clean sounds into the music. So what do you think about this aspect into the mathcore scene, that always try to get in touch with the pop area, with clean singings, rock stuff, etc.?
Yeah, it's in that's a good observation really, because yeah, if you think about, a lot of the, yeah, especially the pioneering sort of mathcore bands. I mean, just to quote a few more, Rolo Tomasi from the UK, Ithaca from the UK, and Low from the UK. You could say they've all had some sort of mathcore influences in their early sound as well, and have also sort of gone for a more straightforward, you know, you'd say poppier, chorusy, clean singing and stuff incorporated into that music. I'm not really sure why, to be honest. I guess it's maybe a lot of people, especially from our generation, the internet generation, have a lot of different music they love from different bands and different sounds they want to incorporate into their own. And I guess maybe there's the want to sort of, show off your technicality, but also be more accessible as well. But yeah, I guess from our own personal band perspective, we always want to make, music that's a bit more accessible than maybe Mirrors was. I mean, one of the not complaints, but feedback from people said, I like this, but this wasn't quite for me, was that Mirrors had a lot of catchy riffs, but then the catchy riffs would only last 3 seconds before they move on to another one that lasts 3 seconds, and then it would be gone. So I think that's kind of part of the reason why we've tried to incorporate some, more catchy, so to say, parts into it, choruses with, clean singing, things that people can sing back, because, Mirrors was great, but I think from a live perspective, there was plenty of opportunity to mosh pit, but there probably wasn't much opportunity to sort of stand still and sing along and, be
Well,
brought
yeah,
into
yeah,
the
yeah.
moment. So, I think that could be a reason why, but yeah, it's not something I've given great thought, but it's definitely an interesting thing to think about.
Yes, yes, yes. But when I did the review from the Blossom, from this new Blossom the album, is that the you are leaned down to the to the choruses, to the verses, compared to the Mirrors, as you told me, in one riff during 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and then you change completely the
Mm.
the riff. But this new album has more. Man, this album has more catchy parts. You can sing parts now compared to the Mirrors. In Mirrors, you can't sing. It's very difficult to sing one song. But this new album is more like the observation to sing. If you play these songs live, it's much better. And related to this, compared to your previous work in Mirrors, you did like a work like more savage, more without form, like something abstract in some ways. But this with this new album, you did more progressive drum parts, technical parts into the drums, etc. So for you, which techniques and methods did you use to create new forms into the Pupil slicer sound in this new album?
I think a lot of the like technical parts of the drum sound probably came from just spending a bit more time actually thinking about it and what fits the part. When we were in the studio with Lewis as well, who produced the record at the Ranch, he, you know, helped to simplify some parts and, build parts a little bit more. So he did sort of have a little bit of input on the drum parts when we were actually in the studio as well. Um, we've sort of incorporated some electronic sounds and electronic drums as well into the sound, which I think, makes things sound a little bit more varied. And yeah, just listening to lots of different drummers helped. Like on the first album, I listened to a lot of, Car Bomb, but then I went to quite a good what's it called, masterclass drum lesson by Mike Mallion, who produced the drums on the first album, and he gave me a lot of ideas of how to think about drums in different sort of times and how you can fit different drum patterns into different time signatures and stuff. And that got me thinking about the drums a little bit and how I could approach them differently at different points. But um, yeah, I think no album's ever exactly the same. So there was a lot of different influences from everyone in the band and different things we tried. But yeah, I'm glad it came across that we'd been, trying to think of things differently, technically at least.
Okay, okay. Now talking on this aspect, do you bring new things to this new album? Do you think that the sound of Pupil Slicer can be carried with new things in level and drums level? I mean, for the next albums.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've left I think we've left the door open as a collective, um, that we can really go on and do anything we want when we do get round to the third album. It feels weird to think about that now, but I think there's so many different genres, different styles of drumming across the album. We could do anything really. Like the last song on the album, Blossoms, quite a straightforward, locked in drum song with the bass with like quite thought out fills. But then there's a song creating the devil in our own image, which is probably one of the more progressive songs that uses a lot more proggy influences, and the song kind of evolves, the drums evolve as the song goes along. And there's another song, The Sound at Creation's End, which is more traditional black metal drums with interesting fills. So yeah, I mean, just talking about just three songs, and I'm thinking of all these different drum styles and things we've tried that we've not done before on the album before. So yeah, if we wanted to go into any of those, we could really on the next one, or explore them more, because I think we're only sort of scratching the surface with some of the sounds we've been exploring on this one.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Well, we're very close to this interview, Josh. And for this aspect, what kind of plans do you have? Well, that the band has for this Blossom. When I saw that you will be embark on tours in Europe, perhaps you will embark on tours in US, because I think you did got a lot of attention from US press with the first since the first album to now, and perhaps you will embark on a fierce Latin American tour for the next years. Who knows?
Yeah, we're hoping so. I mean, America, I think for every band from Europe or the UK, it's kind of that thing you always dream of doing. And there's bands that have kind of been on our similar rise to us, who have done it or have plans to do it soon. So yeah, hopefully it's not if, and more when we can do it. So I mean, I think this year we're quite busy in the summer. We've got a lot of festivals, and then we've got a cool UK tour at the end of the year. So maybe it's something for early next year, or at some point next year. Hopefully that's what we'd like to do, but nothing's in stone yet.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Well, talking about other aspects, as I said in general, especially in the music industry. Now, all people now the music industry changed because for their digital platforms, etc., for these kind of aspects. But usually now we have a lot of influence for one, a lot of news, a lot talking about the artificial intelligence now is more present into music, in general in art, because the artificial or the AI can create art, can create drums parts, keyboards, synthesizers, voice, etc. A lot of things create these apps. So, as a musician and as a new musician within the extreme world, what do you think about now the artificial intelligence is now are a lot of doing a lot of things into the art? Perhaps in the future, do you use for some parts from the Pupil Slicer to create music or art? Who knows?
Um, yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one. I think we're getting to the point now where we're thinking a lot more about AI and what it can do. Is it morally right? Is it wrong? Is technology being used too far in some places? It's a bit of a difficult question that's not only really affecting music and art at the moment. But I mean, I'm pretty sure that the first riff from Mirrors Are More Fun Than Television in the first album was written on a random riff generator online. So I think we already have dabbled in that. There's no AI influence on Blossom at all. But I mean, yeah, it kind of has it. That's proof in the pudding. It can be done. And I think that's probably one of the better tracks on the album. But it was only just literally the first little riff. But yeah, it's definitely something that you have to think about, especially artists. I think AI AI art, as in, you know, illustration. It's getting to the point where the lines being a bit blurred between reality, and we just got to look out for actual artists and make sure they're protected as well, because, you know, for some people it is how they make their money. So yeah, it's a big question, but I hope my rambling has given my thoughts a little bit,
Okay.
because yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, talking about the math scene in general. Well, in Italy, mathcore history bands, albums, etc., etc., since the 80s to now. Well, the mathcore scene came from the hardcore scene with punk influence, with a lot of Japan noise. So, for you, what is your opinion about now the sound of the noise, especially from Japan noise from the 70s, are more present now into the music industry?
I think I kind of touched on it earlier. I think, you know, with the internet making music kind of instantly accessible, um, you know, there's a billion, you can listen to any kind of music from anywhere over the world now, really. So I think the reason a lot of, you know, mathcore bands, like you were saying, especially the modern ones, dabble into lots of different sounds is probably a result of that, really. So um yeah, it's interesting. I guess the progression isn't quite as slow as it used to be. It's probably a lot more, music changes a lot faster now, but um yeah, the internet has to thank for that a little bit, I think.
Great, great. Well, just the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me. Last album is great one. It's a great one. Perhaps to you, and congratulations for this new one. And perhaps do you want to add something to your Latin American fans and Metallurium followers?
Yeah, thanks so much for listening, and, you know, hopefully when we do visit America, we can visit Latin America as well, because yeah, it's a beautiful place of the world, and, you know, we'd love to come and visit it someday. And yeah, keep being awesome, and thanks for listening.